engage in this conference. First of all, we'll start with you, Jinan. You have 30 minutes to present your work, and you can answer the questions of each teacher, each professor, directly after his intervention. Okay?
Thank you so much. Respected jury, friends and family, morning. I would like to present today one of the most significant outcomes of my mission as an educator, Lebanese educator, to develop good active citizen through effective education, which is the education of sustainable development. What is our context and why do we need this? We have lots of inconveniences in the world at the level of environment, like climate change, pollution, COVID-19, the economical crisis, the wars that lead to a world of unsustainability and non-peaceful and not safe. That's why we require an action, and this action was most recently was done before by the United Nations, and the most recent agenda done by the United Nations is the Agenda 2030 that contains 17 SDGs that tackle all the pillars: environment, economic, and social. But in order to implement this policy, just as any other policy, we need to go through the education of the active citizen. The education for sustainable development, which deals or involves the acquisition of knowledge, attitudes, and the skills for all people to implement such SDGs for a peaceful world. And first step, to create the active good citizen that I mentioned. Who is the active good citizen? Who is the well knowledgeable of the sustainable norms? Who can, you have the critical thinker that can evaluate the context and make decisions accordingly. He's the researcher who's able to collect valid and reliable data. He's the innovator, problem solver, and social entrepreneur. He is a professional public speaker who can convince others with his points, and he's the leader with a vision who is implementing good governance with values. So in order to implement education for sustainable development, we need to tackle the curriculum content, teaching strategies, extracurricular activities, school policy and leadership, parent involvements, and partnerships. That means all the stakeholders affecting education. What is our national context? As Dr. Iman said, our country as well signed the Sustainable Development Policy international-wise. However, since 1996, we have, according to our curriculum, the National Awakening Plan by Minister of Education. After it, in 1997, the issue of the Lebanese curriculum. After that, in 2010, we have launched a national educational strategy that focuses on and developed an environmental education curriculum. And in 2018, we were very happy to hear from the CERT the launching of the vision of Education 2030. But although all these efforts, we still have a focus on environmental education rather than education for sustainable development, which includes the other pillars, which are the society, or the social pillar, and the economic pillar. So the problem of this study is the lack of ESD Lebanese curriculum, which would include all ESD themes, learning strategies, and assessment, and other extracurricular activities, and those relevant to education. So the purpose of this study: first, designing a multidisciplinary ESD model for grade 10. Second, implementing the designed model in an official school. And third, evaluating the implementation and as well evaluating the impact of this model on the students. What are the research questions? First, the first research question: how does the current grade 10 curriculum content integrate ESD? Which raises up two other questions. So what are the SD relevant objectives found in the grade 10 Lebanese curriculum, and what are the missing SD items in the curriculum so that they can be added? What best fit teaching and learning ESD model would be integrated effectively with the current grade 10 curriculum? And this raises other three questions. What are the educational theories through which we can build our model? What are the standards, objectives, and learning activities that we want to use in our model? And what are the extracurricular activities that must be included in the model? in question 3, we need to assess definitely the model. So what was the impact of the design model on students' SD knowledge, skills, and attitudes? What were the opportunities and challenges faced by the school teachers, coordinators, principals through applying the design model? And the fifth one, which is very important, how can the local community, parents, municipality, and NGOs contribute in reinforcing ESD in schools? So, what is the significance then of this study? First, it adds to the limited research based on ESD in Lebanon. The content analysis used a framework, an original framework that I've designed that can be adopted to analyze different curriculum content for middle and secondary classes. The design model is very significant support for teachers, educators, all educators, principals, policymakers, and serve to create similar models, similar objectives, and maybe the implementations and the results of the implementation can give insights for policymakers about the implementation of ESD and how much it will be more effective. So after the literary review about content analysis, different studies were done. We've noticed that curriculum might include certain possibilities that we can match it to ESD. However, it's not clear. The curriculum is much dense, so we can remove some items to add some more relevant ESD items. All ESD teams must be integrated, and it's very important the impact of the teacher's vision and the strategies in delivering the content of the curriculum. So it's not only the content of the curriculum is directly to the efficiency of teaching ESD. So with respect to ESD implementation, usually by our research we found that most implementation targets environmental education, not ESD in general. However, when it is for ESD, it is present with respect to economy and social pillars, it is present in social studies, while in environmental education, it is present in biology and geology subjects. With respect to integrating ESD in extracurricular activities, we have really lack of this implementation. So, the theoretical framework, which took a very huge work because we have lots of theories, but we need to choose one of the theory that really leads the designer as well as the learner and the teacher who is implementing this design. That's why I chose understanding by design, which thinks from the outcome in mind or the end in mind. So it starts first with stage 1, where we put the standards and the goals and the enduring understandings which direct the designer. What do we want from this curriculum or model? And we use a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach. You will ask me, what do we mean by multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary in this stage? As I told you, we are making a model for grade 10 that must be integrated into different subjects. So when I have a topic integrated in different subjects, I have it like this. So in languages, I must introduce ESD, in sciences, in math, in social studies. So this is the multidisciplinary approach that I've introduced in the objectives level and the standards level. The second one, which is the assessment. This is very important part of this design, where the assessment is more into performance based. The students are placed in a context that they are problem solvers and they need to find a certain problem in their society to solve it by using all the knowledge and skills and attitudes that they have received using or by studying the model. And the third part, which is the activities, I've used lots of as well strategies and theories to back up the activities, because in order to have all the competencies for the active citizens that I've mentioned before, we need to use different strategies to reinforce these skills and attitudes. So, with respect to problem-oriented project-based learning, which is the assessment part, which is stage 2, and I'm going to let you see this part. First phase is cooperative learning or group formation. Second is problem formulation, where the teacher must orient the student to the context and to the problem, not only deliver the information. They need to articulate the information with real life and the problems we are suffering in our nation. Phase 3, which is the design and building the model, where we need lots of skills in technology and in STEAM STEAM E squared, it's engineering and education for sustainable development, arts and math. So science, technology, engineering, ESD, arts and math. Biomimicry, mimicry, cradle to cradle, eco-design. All of these will enhance the creativity and innovation of the student in order to reach an innovative model to solve a problem. And the last one, scientific inquiry, because whenever we have a data and we practice them and we apply the model, we need to analyze the results and to see if it's effective or not, if it's feasible or not. So that's how we are leading the student to start thinking systematically in a system thinking way, which is one of the competencies in ESD. So with respect to partnerships, you know, the school, in order to implement the ESD vision, there must be different partnerships to have all the resources. So they can do partnership with public, private sectors, colleges, NGOs, UN agency to have all the resources, like sometimes funds, sometimes knowledge, sometimes training, etc., in order to implement it. With respect to extracurricular activities, we've done a research, me and Dr. Eli, about the impact of environmental clubs on implementing or in teaching ESD, and we find out that they are more targeted into environmental education, not ESD in general. So we proposed a sustainability club, which is more general, and through it, the students from the whole school can do democratic representations like elections and voting and stuff like that, so they can practice this issue in their life in the school before going to the nation and to practice in the real life, and they can think systematically, do plans strategically so that they can apply it in the school to solve all the problems. With respect to the sustainability fair, which is very, very important, I'm expecting from the students by the end of the learning to do a change, and I want them to present this change to all stakeholders, because this will make a possible partnership with others so that others can adopt these solutions, fund them, and make them reliable on the real life, make them done in the real life, and this is one of my personal experience. Theoretical framework with respect to parent involvement. According to research, parent involvement are not 100% involved, although ESD requires values, and in order to intensify and reinforce values education, we need to make partnerships and involve the parents. Parents, they don't have the belief that they can change something in the education. They need to be shared with the education that we are doing by the school collaboration. They need to be trained, and they need to know what are the values and what are the stuff they need to do. Thank you so much. Thank you. According to research method, we have double method, quantitative and qualitative. So it's a pragmatism according to philosophy. Research methods, according to first question, we have the content analysis. Second one, we have the design-based research. The third question, we have the quasi-experimental method. And for the questions 4 and 5, we did qualitative using interviews. The sample, the documents used by CERD that show the objectives of grade 10 and the national textbooks as well. The sample chosen through which we applied on them the model, the students who are 15 to 16 years old, and or number is 12. According to research instrument, and this is very important, I would like to share with you in more details. With respect to research question 1, content analysis framework was developed by using 3 different frameworks. It's divided into 7 characteristic keys, and each character or key characteristic for ESD, it contains the objectives for each one. The objectives was taken from a publication from UNESCO that I had the honor to be one of its reviewers that teach the SDGs, all the SDGs. With respect to the key characteristic key, I take it from an Icelandic study. As well, I take the framework of competency. The objectives that were placed according to every key, they tackle not only knowledge, attitudes, and the skills, and in different key characters. Let me mention the characteristic key first. It is the values and opinions and emotions about nature and environment. Second, it is about knowledge contributing to the sensible use of nature. Third, it was about welfare and health. Okay, and public health, welfare and public health. Sorry. And then I have about democracy, participation and action competence, which wasn't 100% found in the curriculum, only in social civics, equality and multicultural issues, global awareness and partnerships, which wasn't present at all in the curriculum of grade 10, economic development and the future prospects. Okay, so this was the model that I spoke about that can be used for different curriculum content analysis. According to research question 2, it doesn't contain any instrument. Research question 3, we have a questionnaire that was used as well by a research done by me and Dr. Eli, studying the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of ESD for students in Beirut schools. Questions for focus group interviews and rubric for project. The rubric as well was designed by me. It was applied to different trials in order to be taken, and it was assessed for reliability. Research question 4 and 5, we have questions for interviews and questions for focus group interviews. The descriptive validity, because I wrote the script. Interpretive validity, because it was achieved the feedback from different principals, teachers, and students. Theoretical, I relate everything to theory, theoretical background, as you noticed. And evaluative, because it was objective. I have my own school, but I didn't do it in my school. I did it in another school. I was just only facilitating and contacting the teachers and principals from outside. Democratic validity, because it, interviews were done with municipalities, representatives, NGOs, and parents, principals, and others. And internal validity by the triangulation instruments that we've used to assess the result of the impact of the model. The reliability of the tools, the questionnaires, and the rubric. Okay, with respect to the results, the brief. This is the result, this is the content analysis. This is a part of the table. What I've done in the content analysis, I used the table and the key characteristics, and I went back to objectives of every subject in grade 10. I see in which is the objectives that is relevant to the key. I wrote it beside the subject. So as you can see here for K1, I have the Arabic. This is the objective relevant to K1. For biology, this is the objective relevant, geology, etc. I count the objectives for every key and I write it beside it. Why? Because I'm going to use it in my design. I want to see the numbers of objectives for every key characteristic, and to see what I would add for what characteristic key I would add in the model to have a balanced model. Okay, so as a result of the content analysis, first I found that we have several SD objectives for each discipline, except for mathematics and technology. There were no objectives found in the whole grade 10 curriculum concerning global awareness and partnerships, and we didn't find any ESD competencies since the curriculum is not competency-based. The design model, more. So the ESD model, the understanding by design, as I've said before, I have the first part, which is the objectives. I use multidisciplinarity. The multidisciplinarity, I use it in finding the standards, the goals, the enduring understanding, and the essential questions. I want to tell you that these compartments of the first phase are very, very important, not only for the designer of the model to lead the ESD training and acquisition of the objectives, but as well to the teachers who are reading this model and to the learners itself to direct them. With respect to the second phase, which is the assessment, I've told you that I've used performance-based assessment. The performance task was you are an activist in your school. You need to find a problem in your community and you need to solve it by the end. And I wrote the criteria. They need to give a report for their work, showing how much it's feasible, how much they made the research well, how much it is applicable and how they are going to market it and implement it in their real life. So it's not any project just research and presenting. It must be a concrete model that can be applied in the real life. And the stage 3, it involves the activities. So the activities that include Socratic learning, argumentation, debates. The activities themselves as well, they teach the skills, the ESD skills for the students that are needed to do their performance tasks. So it's not only a project, it's everything. They need to do the argumentation to convince others that their project is effective and applicable. So here is the design model, and for every subject, what are the topics that I've mentioned. So here for Arabic, I proposed the objectives here. I made the activities. The activities, they contain objectives. They contain the resources for the teachers to use, the background information for the teacher, because I know the teachers that are not much well trained for ESD, so I prepared for them background information, the resources, everything, and I communicated with them in order to just facilitate the process and to see what are their gaps, to use it for me as well evaluation of the implementation. As a result, the first result, as we said, we made a questionnaire pre and post. We see here that SD knowledge, skills, and attitudes were increased. However, let me tell you something, the most significant increase was in the skills, which is very important. Even this is small model applied in a small period of time into the curriculum, but it directed students to have more skills to do a change according to ESD. According to problem-oriented project-based learning, the students succeeded to invent a smart garbage bin that was able to sort materials, and they were graded according to the rubric 15/21. And this was two pillars of parts of the rubric. They had different challenges in the technology part because they are not well trained on STEAM and STEM. That's why I suggested that in the technology to teach Arduino and how to code and how to do programming. They as well have challenges in the entrepreneurship skills in order to do feasibility study. So to see how it's effective and how it can be implemented. So that's why I recommended that we need to teach them more entrepreneurship skills. According to challenges and opportunities, as we all know, teachers are overloaded with a load curriculum and they need more training, and some of them, they are not interested because they don't have the vision. And the principal as well, they are asking for more teacher training. They need more teachers' time because in official schools, you know that some teachers, they are part-timers. They need more support from parents and from others. And sometimes they don't have the knowledge how to go through it. Parents, they are not engaged in school academics and programs, and they are only engaged in some celebrations and supporting by some funds. According to NGOs, they have lots of difficulties to enter the school, and sometimes they were defied by the principal mindset. They don't want their help, and they don't see that the programs presented by the NGOs are good for them to reorient more into ESD. Municipalities, they say that they're trying their best and maximum to support the schools by funds and resources, but they are slightly engaged in the activities, and they are expecting much from principals, more projects that they can help in. So this was the feedback from municipalities. Conclusions. The design model contained the objectives and the themes of all 17 SDGs in this model. However, it needs to be applied in different classes as well. We can do another model for different classes. It can be done by the same for the same classes several times to see how we can improve it. It is recommended to integrate ESD in higher education and especially in faculties of pedagogies, because in-service and pre-service teachers cannot do ESD or cannot implement ESD if they don't have the vision and if they are not well trained. The objectives of the model would be more effectively obtained if the training on STEAM, biomimicry, and other ESD strategies must be done before. Policymakers must integrate entrepreneurship skills, as I've said, into the curriculum. There must be better implementation if there was a project manager for this model who's responsible as well for the extracurricular activities, and he's going to monitor everything and follow up teachers. Leadership skills for the principals is very, very, very important. There must be transformational, authentic, and democratic. They must have the vision to transform it to others. They must be authentic, believing that it's not at the end of the world. We have lots of inconveniences around us, but we have the solution, and democratic to respect others' perspectives. We need to train parents to be involved more. We need to communicate with them. We need to have a system to deliver with them the values that we are reinforcing in the whole year, and how to evaluate this improvement in the values. More partnerships with NGOs and community must be done, and we need to facilitate the work of NGOs into school better, because they are stuck in some formal papers and some official permissions. Training on extracurricular activities, which is very important. It's not about extracurricular activities something to play. It is something very important to reinforce the ESD values, and for policymakers at the end. I would like to ask them to reorient the curriculum faster, to make it more sustainable, and to support the schools with resources, with training, to support this vision into the higher education faculty of pedagogies for more training, and to facilitate for us more ESD models, because however and whatever we teach, whenever the student is not finding true active citizens around, we have a challenge. And thank you so much.